Welcome to our Shining Force 3 Scenario 2 Force Member tier list. We just completed a playthrough, and it's ranking time. As always, characters are ranked on the unit performance, how easy they are to level, and how much they contribute to the battle, how much they contribute to the story, how cool they are, and we're looking at you, Robbie, and really, how much I like them, and this is really the only thing that matters. Before we start, always remember, I'm terrible with names, and as always, these lists are just for fun, nothing here is set in stone. It's all just my opinion, so let's go. Midian is the leader of our force in Scenario 2. He's the third child of Emperor Donar, with Aran and Madradon being his older brothers, though he was born from a different mother. Often seen as a good and honorable child who cares for the small folk, to the point where he is even liked in the Republic as well. As a unit, Midian performs up to the standards of the previous hero units, where he has a decent attack, decent defense. You'll always be wanting more defense in your hero character, given that if he falls in battle, the whole party pulls back. He gets the standard bolt spell too, and since magic has gotten a kick in the butt in Shining Force 3, so does Midian. I think the one thing holding Midian back from ranking higher is that our characters only grow to around level 13 or so, and we never reach close to level 20. I say this because in Shining Force 1 and 2, Max and Bowie didn't become god tier units until we get to this level or higher. This also impacts Symbios from Scenario 1 too, but unlike Symbios, Midian isn't a goo. I think we're going to end up putting Midian into Great Tier. We'll see how he places as we go along this. Dependable as always, our trusty companion Campbell performs his knightly duties adequately. A longtime member of the Imperial Army, Campbell has a long-standing rivalry with his mirror image Donteris, but unlike Donteris, I found him to struggle a bit in the mid to late game. A statement I might make for a few melee characters in this game. I found his damage output to start to plummet around the start of Chapter 5. I kept thinking that I had missed picking up a weapon upgrade for him, but time after time the answer was nope, he's got his best weapon. His knightly movement, respectable defense, and his underwhelming competition means he'll always have a spot on our team, but his struggles are going to place him just in good tier, likely near the top at the end of the day. Come on, let's get up there, Campbell. Masquerin got top tier in Scenario 1, so surely Synthesis should follow suit, right? No. Maybe I expected more from them, or maybe I'm just used to mages being overpowered now. Synthesis, like Campbell, is one of our trusty companions at the start of the game. They always have a fun, playful, though somewhat reserved personality, making quips and finding ways to get into trouble. She rocks Blaze and Spark spells, and even gets a Soul Steal spell, which is a spell I should maybe use more often, but I'm a sucker for playing it safe, and with the damage mages do now, it's hard to resist 30 damage for just 2 MP. Come to think of it, Masquerin has the same spell set, minus Soul Steal. She actually has less spells. Why did I put her top tier? Okay, I'm gonna look this up now. Oh, Masquerin gets Blaze 4, 5 levels earlier? Yep, that'll do it. Masquerin, Synthesis is firmly in A tier though. We're gonna actually bump her up above Midian. So mages aren't the only class that benefit from a magic buff. All the casters do, including our priest Yorindo. Yorindo plays a straight man to Synthesis' playfulness, but he's very much encouraging her in her mischief. With us from the beginning, Yorindo is your typical priest unit, learning heal, antidote, and aura along the way. The spell pool itself is solid, but all those spells have been improved in a few ways. Heal can now do more than the default 18 HP. What its limit is, and how it's calculated, I don't really know, but I've seen it hit as high as 30. Antidote itself wasn't improved, but it feels like status effects happen more often. Poison does massive damage now, so curing it is important. Aura gets the same buffs as heal did. And the various staffs you equip throughout the game add a spell. So if you want Yorindo to have Tornado, he can. If you want a support spell, you can just add it in. With the way I'm talking Yorindo up here, you'd think he'd be going to Legend here. But no, I'm just happy healers matter. We've come a long way from Shining Force 1. Archers are also good now. Anyway, Yorindo is going solidly in the Great Tier, just below Synthesis. And you know what? Below Midian. I don't think I can put Midian lower than Yorindo. Feels a little dirty. Rock is, well, a damned rock. Joining us near the start of the game with his companion Walls, Rock is the party's meat shield. Acting like the true battler he is, Rock sports high defense and a respectable attack. He is our unit of choice when we want the enemy to come to us. Rock was honestly on his way to being a legend, but then a late game tragedy struck. I'm not sure if his defense didn't grow enough, or if the enemy's attack value skyrocketed, or I made the mistake of taking the damn life ring off him. But he started taking a lot more damage, and our always dependable Rock stopped being, well, a rock. He even fell in the final battle. Even freaking Panko survived that. Still, for excellent work almost all the way through, Rock will end up in A tier. I might be putting too many people here by the looks of it. And Rock, you're gonna go, yeah, that sounds about right, under Yorindo for me. Let's talk about walls. But wait, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here. I haven't been impressed with either of the two horse archers I've gotten so far in Shining Force 3. Justin being the other one, and I've struggled a bit to understand why. They are basically set up to be the same as the other archers, but I think I figured out why, and it's a part of expectations and a part of unit construction. Horse archers, or at least walls, has a movement of 5, same as the other archers, and I feel they should have a higher movement, like the other horse units, but the movement just makes them the same as normal archers. However, while they don't get the movement of knights, they get punished just like them, which means they have higher than normal movement penalties in the mountains, forests, and other terrain. It's a small thing, but small things matter. I think the solution might just be to give them 6 movement. Anyway, we meet Walls and Rock together. Walls has been poisoned, and in order to heal her and recruit both of them, we need to use an antidote herb to cure Walls. And that's about it for Walls. Walls is an archer, if you haven't heard. 1 of 4. She's not the worst, and she's far from the best. I think we're just going to place her in good tier, and she might be up in the bottom when it's all said and done. Bernard and I had a weird journey. When I originally recruited him, I thought he was just a priest based on his portrait, and I was excited. Then I found out he was an archer, and you know how I feel about archers. So, when we finally got a full force, Bernard was one of the first to get kicked out. Not really due to underperformance, he just isn't cool. And he isn't, and that's not changing in this story. But there came a battle where the force was locked in a prison, and we had access to all our units again. So Bernard got a second chance, and by God he made the most of it. Attacking from the range and safety of the prison cells, Bernard started dealing out damage and he didn't stop. I kept trying to take him out of the party, but in the end we couldn't. This man would not be removed. Story time over. Bernard is really just an archer, perhaps the best in the game. I don't know. I'm not running in-depth stats here. He's also boring, but he wormed his way back into the force and became a trusted team member. Bernard, you've earned this A rank, and I think we're actually going to put you a little bit above Rock. No, that doesn't seem fair. Rock was so dependable for such a long time. Speaking of characters with a weird journey, Zero joins our force and leaves our force too many times to count. Okay, I think he only leaves twice. Each of the 3 times he joins our force, he comes back at a different performance level. It was hard for the devs to balance a character coming in and going away, I guess. The first time Zero joins us, he's borderline overpowered. His attack is high and his defense is okay for a Birdman. Birdmen are traditionally just a terrible unit. During the first journey, he even had me making references to Peter, and well, that was a mistake. The second time through, he felt like just a standard unit. Wasn't setting the world on fire, but I didn't want to kick him out of the force. He was serviceable for a flying unit. The third time though, he was just bad. He had a low attack, abysmal defense. We pretty much just kept him around because he flew, just like his sister Eldar. Without checking, I think the primary cause of this is that his weapon level is artificially inflated when you first get him in the party. So his attack power runs higher than the other units at his level, and that advantage goes away as we get later in the game. Zero is sort of an important unit storyline-wise as well. He liaisons with the Cenobius force to gather updates on what they are doing and what the state of the world is. He also helps transport the Ebblesome orb between the 2 teams, so they both conveniently have it when it's needed. I've said a lot here. At the end of the day, Zero is a Birdman, or Bird Knight, or whatever he was, and there really hasn't been a passable one of these guys in a Shining Force game, except maybe Balgoroy, and that's it. We're putting you in C tier or passable. I think you're going to stay at the top of this pile though, because you can fly. Hazuki appears to be the little ninja who could. She seems to thread the needle perfectly at being a jack-of-all-trades unit. Need someone to take a hit? She can. Need a melee attack? She can also do that. Need to hit one of those 3 enemies with a spell? Well, she can also do that. She even learns the attack spell near the end of the game, so she can even buff. Did I mention that her critical hits can put the enemies to sleep? Which, let's face it, that's pretty much an instant kill in all but name. That makes it sound like she's overpowered. And maybe she is, but she never feels that way. She's never the first option to do any of the already mentioned options. She's just a perfect number 2. And I'm a little perturbed why I enjoy her so much as a unit, yet I'm so disappointed with the scenario when ninjas. It might just be that she starts with us much earlier, so we don't have to find a spot for her. There just is one, instead of having to kick somebody out. When we meet Hazuki, she and her father are falling down from a waterfall into a cave. Her father's quite injured, but she's fine. Fine enough to do backflips out of a waterfall. She gets attacked by some monsters, and after we deal with them, we learn that she and her father had orders to kill Yasha. Yasha, also a ninja, is a final boss. So to have a contract on him speaks highly of the duo. Also, Hazuki's father passes away from his injury, and she joins up. I have a hard time placing her. My gut wants to put her in legend tier, but my head says she's not that special. She always has something to do, and with high movement. Why not, Hazuki? You're becoming a legend. David is a natural leader. He's a leader of his village, and after he joins up with us to stop the Bolzum invasion of his village and rescue his girlfriend Hedba, he starts to take on a leadership role in the team, always being present during the strategy meetings to the point where he leads our secondary force against a true final boss. As a unit, David is a bit strange. He's officially a ranger who gets promoted to a commando. He only wields tomahawks and spears, so he's sort of a ranged unit who can deal damage up close. He's got the movement of a knight without the movement penalties, but he lacks their punching power since he can't wield true melee weapons. If you equip the white ring on David, he can be a great unit for leading your force, moving ahead and pulling units to him. He's also great as a rescue unit, since he can move across the map quickly. Unfortunately, he never gets decent weapons, so while he can survive in the middle game, he starts to falter at the end of the game. And if you need one of the better rings in the game just to be useful, how great are you really? I think David's gonna go in the good tier, maybe even just in the pass tier, since I'm not sure how long you'd last without that ring, David. It feels a shame to put 0 above you though. Oh, this hurts because David was a good unit, but he depended on that ring. When we first meet Hedba, she is being mind controlled by bulls and monks, and we have to fight her, and during that fight she does her best to make us want to kill her by attacking us with fairly strong freeze magic. It's too bad that if we do, she's gone for good. Hedba is a summoner, which means in addition to casting normal spells like freeze, she can learn some spells where she summons, let's be honest, rather lame looking creatures to attack the enemy. I just can't get into the summoner class in Shining Force. I find almost all of the summons I have come across to be unimpressive looking. I am not a fan of how their damage is calculated either. If you hit multiple targets with the spell, you do less damage, so it's better for you to cast it on just one enemy unit. Sort of the inverse of the standard spells. I also don't like spending that much MP for a spell, and summons cost a lot of MP. To do damage to just one enemy? At least Hedva comes with the standard freeze spell to offset this. Near the end of the game, I also gave her an Aura Rod, which gave her a rather impressive spell list of Freeze, Zephyr, Wendigo, and Aura. Hedva is the second best offensive spellcaster behind Synthesis. She's welcome in the Force, but I can see times where she's forced out. I think she's gonna end up in good tier, and definitely ahead of Walls. Julian seems less impressive here than in Scenario 1, and it can't just be because we now have a competent hero in Midian to compare him to. Just like in Part 1, Julian is only around for 1.5 chapters, and it feels like he's around for less. Perhaps, since he shows up later in the game, it feels like he has less of an impact. You know, instead of being 1 of 8, he's 1 of 12. Julian is the true hero of Shining Force 3, and built like traditional hero units of the past, with good offense, so-so defense, and some lightning to back him up. I like to think that he has the highest attack of the 3 heroes, though I have 0 data to back that up. Unlike normal heroes, he never reaches his peak, since he's gone before the end of the game. In this story, he separates from the party, taking a ship to go stop the Bolzum invasion of the Empire. A solid unit, and potentially great unit. He's not really around long enough to make it higher than the B tier. We're gonna put him here, and this is solely based on the fact that he's not around. Quickly, we need to get our Scenario 2 Donar thoughts out before he redeems himself in Scenario 3. We first meet Donar in the bowels of an Imperial prison, where we are looking for an escape from town. First, he's not very helpful, but once we mention we're trying to save Gracia and stop the Ebelson monks, he's all on board and shows us a secret passage out. Donar is the worst. He's a computer-controlled unit, so we have no say in what he does in battle, and we can't kick him out either. When we try to, he'll just show up in the next battle as a 13th Force member, which I admit is pretty cool to have more than 12 characters, but this guy is a madman. He either runs ahead and gets killed, or brings units we don't want to engage closer to us. Worst of all, he's a kill stealer. Let me tell you, I enjoy ensuring my characters are about the same level, and this guy comes in and just messes that up. For what it's worth, Donar is a paladin with a halberd as his primary weapon. His stats are fine, he might even be better than Campbell, and I enjoy his grumpy, cantankerous nature. But he's untrustworthy, and unreliable, and just the worst. Welcome to the bottom, Donar. I'm gonna fall in love with you in Scenario 3, aren't I? The problem with hybrid units like Hera, and most of the other Master Monks, is that if you make them too good at healing, you remove the priests as a class, and if you make them too good at attacking, you remove the need for melee characters. Shining Force 3 has opted to reduce the effectiveness of the Master Monks back to the Shining Force 1 standard, and not the Shining Force 2 standard where they are gods. This makes Hera more of a utility unit, rather than a standout unit. She's an okay member of the Force, and a solid glue unit. She has access to heals, though does not get the strange buffed healing the Priest class gets, so she heals about 10 HP less. And she's got decent utility spells in Resist and Support, and I am a man who loves the support spell. So what about Hera the person? She's an Ebelson monk in training and leaves her temple in fear once Bolzum occupies it, along with a few other villagers. When caught, she stands her ground in the face of certain death, or it would be, if we didn't stop in to save them. After the battle, she joins the Force as a much desired second healing option. Hera's not great, but she's certainly useful, and she's gonna go in good tier. And I'm actually gonna place her above Hedba. I might get more use from Hedba, but I just like having that second healing option around. It makes me feel a little safer. Robbie, you were supposed to be more than this. You're probably the most complicated character in the game to recruit. You are hyped up as the ancient protector of the Ebelson Temple, and you are a cool-looking robot. What happened, man? What happened? Well, first of all, Robbie is an archer, so right away, I don't like him. And he also has a movement of 5, which, combined with his slow speed, can make it hard for him to get involved in battle, and, anecdotally, it feels like his attack power is lower than the other archers. Or maybe it just felt that way to start given his weapon level and the shells that were available. Eventually, we reached a point where it was either buff Robbie with items or take him out of the Force. So we gave Robbie a running pepper to increase his movement, and even then, it's not like he was setting the world on fire, he just sort of became competent. I almost want to put this robot in the past tier, but since he was on our main Force all game, partly because we buffed him, and partly because he's an ancient robot, and coolness is part of my arbitrary ranking, so I think we're gonna put him in the good tier? Oh, I can't do that. I think we're actually gonna move Robbie and Walls down. Mediocrity runs in the family. No, that's not fair. Arthur Sr. from Shining Force 1 at least has potential if he held his hand along the way. This guy, not so much, as far as I know. Also, have to point out that this blonde magic knight named Arthur actually has no relation to the blonde magic knight from Shining Force 1. Good? Good. Arthur is an interesting character. He's a knight who learns low-level magic spells, Blaze, Freeze, and Bolt. That sounds great, right? And yeah, to be honest, it's pretty good. He meets expectations when it comes to magic. Unfortunately, he doesn't really do a great job of being a knight for 2 reasons. First, his primary weapon when you recruit him is a spear. Spears allow you to attack from range, but they have the lowest attack power of all paladin weapons. It also doesn't make much sense from a design perspective to give our magic unit a ranged weapon, when they already have magic to attack from range. Secondly, he's got a very small HP pool for a paladin. I think endgame, he's still in his 30s, whereas someone like Campbell is around the 50 mark. So, for a pure spellcaster, he's sort of lacking. And for a knight, he's lacking. If you put the two together, does it excel? Nope. Combo units like this are hard. Make him too good at being a paladin or a mage and it would make the other 2 units obsolete. No wonder Arthur is so tired of wars and battles, given that he's had to trudge through them like this. Very close to the bottom, but I think we're going to put him right at the bottom of pass. You know, because it's always possible if we spend a whole bunch of time grinding him, he's going to get to level 50 and be super good, just like the old Arthur. Poor Garosh. He's lived a tough life. He's seen many of his family die during the wars. He killed his poor brother Jade on the battlefield. All that, and he's still just a second-tier character. Garosh is a unit that comes along later in the game to replace a unit you got earlier and didn't level. Like Higgins, Diane, and many others before him. He's slightly worse than your old units if you've been keeping them leveled. Though, the advantage here is that you can slide him in if you didn't. This is also useful for the final battle, as you can slot him in without much luck. I've also heard there's a bug you can encounter in Scenario 3 when you do his 3rd tier promotion, which kinda nerfs him. Garosh is the 3rd or 4th best archer in the game, and he's not cool enough. And you know what? He's actually gonna go below Arthur, because I still, to this day, have a spot in my heart for magic casting knights. Jade is a freaking brass gunner. I didn't know these existed in Shining Force 3. I was very excited when I saw him in the credits. In the credits, you say? That's right, I didn't recruit Jade, since we saved his brother Garosh. In fact, we killed Jade on the field of battle. Jade dies defending the Republic from the encroaching Imperial army. Many of Jade and Garosh's family have died fighting the Imperials. So, we're going to do some educated guessing. So, as we discussed, I'm not a fan of the Shining Force 1 or 2 archers, and the brass gunners, I like them even less. I don't think there's a statistical reason why I dislike the brass gunners more than the other archers. In fact, they might have had better stats. I just don't like the design and that strange little car they drive around in. Taking this at face value, I'd put any Shining Force brass gunner in D tier, and archers got a buff in Shining Force 3. So let's put Jade firmly in the pass tier, and you know what? I'm actually going to put him above Garosh, because as much as I just badmouth brass gunners, one brass gunner is more interesting than being the 3rd archer. Panko isn't really a standard unit, so she's hard to judge. She joins you at level 1 unpromoted near the end of the game, so you aren't using her unless you grind her up at the end of the game in the Heroes test. And even if you grind her up, she doesn't really get good. Sort of an Easter egg character, so let's judge her on that. Does she have a weird set of requirements to recruit? Yeah, you have to recruit a chicken in one chapter, have pigs dig up an egg in another, and let's be honest, you weren't finding those without a guide. Is she super cute? Kind of? I mean, baby penguins are cute to start with, but maybe she could have been a little cuter? I find it extremely difficult to fail meme or joke characters, so Panko goes right at the end of past tier. Maybe. I think if you have a character like this, they should get good if you grind them, so maybe she should fail. Oh, that's a little mean to this cutie pie. Do we want to put her in trash? Oh, we got a big pass tier that maybe we're going to reevaluate when we finish reading up on our last character here. Pappets. Pappets is a bit of a hard one. Pappets is a special character with his own special mechanics. He joins us before the final battle, almost purely to balance it out if we missed recruiting characters along the way. Pappets himself is probably a little underwhelming, to be honest. His attack is fine, his defense is fine, his movement is, you guessed it, fine. Oh, and his backstory? What backstory? His talent, though, is phenomenal. Pappets is a beast tamer. When he kills a beast in battle, it can be recruited into the force and will join us in battle. This allows you to have hydras, wyverns, or even queen worms in our force, so you can see how it can be overpowered. You can have 3 of them join you in battle, and recruiting 3 queen worms is fairly easy. The only downside to this is that monsters will only appear in your party if you have slots for them, meaning if you want 3 monsters joining you, you've got to run a party of 9 members. But let's be honest, 1 queen worm is a heck of a lot stronger than any Scenario 2 force member. I am very interested to see how he's handled in Scenario 3, and how they go about balancing him, because I feel like he can be game-breaking. As a rule, I try to sort of punish characters that fall into the category of, if you grind them, they get good, because if you grind anyone, they become good. But I think Pappets can honestly become a god tier unit very easily if you recruit the right characters. And I feel kind of bad about putting him in Legend tier, because I kind of don't think he's earned it, but he is our number 1 unit. So let's take a look at our list here. I feel a little I got this big pass C tier, and I think I'm going to promote Robbie into good tier just to balance it out a little. I do think these archers are probably a little more usable than Arthur. Arthur's been a big disappointment. Oh, and here's the thing on my mind is Zero can fly. That's his only use. And I actually don't think there was a lot of use for him in this game. I know in Scenario 1 there were some weapons that Eldar could pick up, and only Eldar, but didn't feel like having Robbie really helped me get items. Actually, I think I kind of needed Zero to recruit Robbie, so back up you go, Zero. Back past the archers. And I've sat here and I've talked about how good archers are, and we're going to bring walls up to the good tier as well. Wow, just looking at this, there are 5 potential archers here. So I think this is our list. It's fairly compact and fairly good. If you disagree, leave some comments, but I just want to say thank you for watching. I think tier lists are starting to become a bit of a regular thing we do. And we're going to start focusing more on some non-character and non-boss tier lists coming soon. Some real sicko stuff to be ranking, where it's like, I can't believe you're going to be taking time to rank this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, YouTube stuff. We've got Scenario 3 to do. So, onwards and upwards.